Alright lads, so we have Evocation Festival Part 2 coming over here to the JP version of the game. If you think I sound a little bit weird right now, I am on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so you might have to get a little bit used to it. I'll try tinkering with the audio to make it more acceptable, but for the next 2 weeks, it's going to sound a little bit different, and then we'll be back to, regular good old crisp audio. But yeah, we're getting the Part 2 for basically this free-to-play revival event, as I like to call it. For the Part 1, we got Sam Baquets, we got Caster Shuten, and we got Ryder Kentoki. Ryder Kentoki was a really big one because that is one of the best free-to-play servants we've gotten. Just 50% battery, good damage, good quake buff. What more could you ask for? Now, for this part, it seems they went a little harder because they brought back 4 of them and 3 of them actually got buffs. I was really hoping that Sam Baquets and Caster Shuten would have gotten some buffs, and maybe that Kentoki Ryder could have gotten a buff for that, the healing skill, because I didn't really do a whole lot for him. But yeah, I'm actually really interested to see what these guys are going to be bringing to the table. I'm a little excited because I haven't seen the skill buffs, but I have heard that the Liz ones are not super great, but I have not heard anybody say that the Nobu ones are not any good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if they actually made Nobu a little bit better, because one thing that she is desperately lacking in right now is damage. She doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. I mean, she has the damage mods to kind of make up for that, but I'm hoping that maybe just chuck her a little buff her way to kind of help her out just a little bit. But if you guys like knowing about everything that's going to be coming on both the NA and the JP version of the game, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel, because your boy is always going to be hitting you with that daily FGO content, making sure that you are well informed on the goings on the game. So with that being said, let's just start breaking down some of these summonings. So we have Elizabeth Brave over here. I know she already has a buff. I believe it's to her 3rd skill. This is the one that she gets during the Halloween event, so it's not this. Is it our NP? Okay, it looks like it's going to be your NP. So, absolutely nothing, bro. She, okay, literally got absolutely nothing. That's really terrible. I'm so sad. I'm sorry, Liz. You didn't deserve to get a buff this mid, because honestly, this servant's like not beyond saving. We could definitely make this a really solid servant. I think this is a fun skill to play around with, especially because they made it a little bit more manageable because it's only 50% now instead of 100%. But really, dude, really, we're just gonna be like, oh yeah, we gave it a little bit more damage and spread of fire. That's really good. Get it? Because it correlates to the overcharge over here, because now we can do a lot of extra burn. I don't know. Look, if I'm going to be optimistic, maybe in the future, this first skill, no, this one, the 2nd skill over here gets like a burn special damage mod or something. That's like my copium, is that they're like, oh yeah, Buster performance for 3 turns, and she gets like a 50% special damage mod against burn people. That could be kind of interesting, but alright, I'm starting to see why people did not think these buffs are really good. If this is Elizabeth Brave, I'm really not looking forward to the caster one. Okay. I don't think it was this one. I know she has a battery buff that she gets. Was it this one? Okay, this is the one that she gets during the Halloween event. Because keep in mind, all of the Liz events did get, or the Liz servants got buffed for the Liz Halloween event that we're going to be getting this year, I believe. It's actually it's right before, where we get all of the Liz servants, and then they all come back as like NP5s. You're able to pick them up there in the shop. But that's the old one, because I remember she got the battery, and I was like, oh, that's decent. Like, that's not bad. Give her a 30% battery as an AoE Buster servant. That's not terrible. That could make her usable in the future. Alright. Okay, we got a lot of stuff going on here. We have, oh my goodness, that's a lot. So first and foremost, we're changing the stars. So it's going from 12 to 20. 20 stars every turn for 3 turns. That's kind of nice. A 3k heal. Removes 1 latest buff from all enemies. That's not terrible. If you successfully remove the buff, you hit them with the Happy Halloween debuff for 3 turns. It reduces the enemy's critical attack chance by 10% and charges own NP by 20% based on the number of enemies with the debuff. The amount of NP charges multiply. Okay, yeah, okay. So, at best, it is like a 60% battery. At worst, it's maybe like a 20%, but you should be getting at least like 40 to 60% because you should be fighting numerous enemies. This isn't terrible. This isn't, okay, I think this one is really, really bad. This literally does a whole net nothing for Brave Liz. It just does not do anything for her at all. I think this one's actually fine. This is not a bad skill buff. This is actually fine. Like, 20 stars per turn is always going to be very good. That is a double maximum broken 20-30 for 3 turns. That ain't bad. 3k heal is nice. And then having the ability to remove buffs off of all the enemies can be, like, very useful in some scenarios, right? Because bosses, if you're going to be bringing her to fight people like that, you know, they're going to be buffing themselves all the time. So being able to take off some of their buffs can be really nice. And then also getting the ability to get a little bit of NP back, you know, in conjunction with her having a 30% over here, that's not bad. I think the bad thing, though, is that if you're wanting to use her as, like, a Buster AoE farming type person, as, like, a free-to-play option, because she does have the 30% battery over here, which will allow her to do, like, Koyanskaya and Oberon setups. The only unfortunate thing is that, you know, this doesn't really do anything for that. You might be like, well, yeah, you'd be able to, like, you know, get some NP back for them, but keep in mind, when you're farming, the enemies typically aren't going to be buffing themselves, right? Unless you have some way to, like, give them a buff and then remove it from them, but that sounds like a whole lot of work. So, yeah, it's nice if you want to use her in more difficult content, I'd say. Like, it's definitely nice. This is not a bad skill in and of itself, but I could see why people aren't a fan of it, because it doesn't do anything for her being like a farmer, but you know, it could do some things, I suppose. It's not the worst thing I've seen. It could definitely have been a lot worse. I think we can all agree it could have been infinitely worse. Okay, Nobu, please just give her damage. I don't think actually Nobu's been buffed at all, actually. Yeah, so it just has to be the first skill. I mean, battery or something, please? Increases party's Buster performance by 20%, NP damage by 20%, and then NP gain by 30%. Okay. So this is pretty good, actually. Yeah, this is pretty nice. Because you're essentially going to be able to double buff the entire party. If they give Nobu like a 30% battery, I'm thinking this could be like really good if you need Koyanskaya to be like your wave 1 like clearer, because usually your Koyanskaya is not buffed if you have to use it to clear wave 1 for you, but this would allow you to double buff her on top of her having like a passive 20% NP damage buff as a passive skill. It could be really good for that. It could be really good for more difficult content, because keep in mind, Nobu's not the worst in those because of her Divine and her Riding special damage mods over here. Like, she can kind of get a lot of decent damage against people. So if they do, you know, expand upon her in the future and they start buffing some more of her skills, which, I mean, to be fair, even though this was like a mid, like, skill buff for her, or I guess an NP damage buff, and this one may not have, like, the most immediate applicability, they did buff them, like, what, a year later? No, it's 2 years later, I think. I think it's 2 years later. Okay, but better than some servants that don't get buffed for like another 4 years, right? So like if they want to touch up on Nobu again in like a year or something, like she could slowly start to become really good. The problem is that like, well, this is a really good skill. This isn't going to make like, oh my goodness, Nobu is whoa mega good right now. She's crazy, because she can now triple buff herself, which is really nice. Buster NP plus one of her special damage mod allows her to triple buff herself to do what I imagine would be some pretty decent damage. I'll have to test it out myself on JP when I, you know, go exchange all my stuff for her. But the problem is that Nobu's one of those characters that just needs a little bit more work. And so I don't think this is going to be like immediately broken or anything, or it's not going to be like recognized as like really, really strong right now. It's one of those things that's like, okay, good step in the right direction for Nobu. In the future, you know, if we start like buffing some of her other skills over here, then she'll definitely be really crazy. But look at it as more of a step in the right direction. That's kind of how I'm viewing the Elizabeth skill over here. Although, I'll kind of need to see what they do with, like, skill 2 or her NP if they decide to buff them. Because, please, like, don't do, like, evil curse. Like, ooh, now we're really doing curse damage. Like, don't give her the Brave Elizabeth, like, NP upgrade. Just don't do that, right? Because I'm a little worried because they both do, like, curse, burn, right? And then they both pierce defense. I'm a little worried about that one. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm really weirded out that they didn't give one to Etchan over here. I'm kind of weirded out that they didn't give her a buff. Like, even like a 30% battery for her would have made her really good as like a free-to-play quick AoE farming servant, right? Something along those lines, but they just decided to not give her anything. Maybe they just think Etchan is a little too recent and a little too good, maybe, so she doesn't deserve a buff. But by that logic, why didn't Shuten or Quetzalcoatl Ruler get a buff? I don't know. Maybe they're realizing with the collaboration event that's going on right now, maybe they've realized that people really like it when they buff servants because it breathes new life into most servants, right? Again, like with some of these free-to-plays right now, it's more or less like, oh, you can look forward to them being good in the future, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Overall, just to kind of generally like summarize, I think this one is really poo-poo bad. This one shows some promise maybe in the future. We'll have to see what they do with her. And then Nobu, this is a very strong step in the right direction, but she does need more buffs. But with all that being said, I will go ahead and catch you guys in the next video. Peace, late guys.